These are 5 things you may have never known about Rocket League's highest rank. Starting with the absurd amount of money people are willing to pay for a rank they didn't earn themselves. Now, if you've ever hoped to reach a certain rank one day, or even grinded your way up to that rank, you understand how difficult and time-consuming a task that can be. Through smurfing opponents and seemingly unwinnable lobbies, it takes a lot to push through in order to finally achieve that dream goal. But in finally doing so, you're rewarded for your efforts with a ranked cosmetic at the end of the season. In spite of that, there are people that are able to get the same reward as you or better for absolutely no effort. And this is because of the players and websites out there dedicated to elo boosting, which is when someone else plays on your account for you in order to get the rank you want in exchange for a shocking amount of money. Depending on what rank you're starting at, various boosters will charge anything from $70 for platinum to $150 for the champion rank. But for the highest ranked Supersonic Legend that only 0.1% of the player base can even reach, goes for upwards of $1,000. Keep in mind that offering or purchasing boosting services is a bannable offense if you're caught, and like we've even seen in the past with the infamous kerupt situation, a pro player got permanently banned from Rocket League for publicly doing just that. And for all you aspiring pro players out there, here's a surprising fact about the SSL skill level. There is a massive skill range from the average Supersonic Legend to the next tier of bubble players and then to professional players. This is because the entry level of SSL is around 1900 MMR, and this of course goes all the way up to 2200 for the top players in the rank. All these SSL players may be considered the same rank, but that 300 MMR gap is just about the same difference between a grand champion and a diamond player. The grind to Supersonic Legend will probably be the hardest rank you'll ever have to climb to, but going further past that entry level and then going pro is a whole different beast. Not to mention, pro players often use ranked as a way to just practice their mechanics and not necessarily play for the win for some mere ranked points. To many of them, ranked doesn't mean a whole lot, but what it does mean is that they'll often go into matchmaking with a completely different playstyle than how they would compete in pro play. I mean, why would they strain themselves when they can just use scrims to improve and practice against the highest possible competition? So if you do reach SSL, don't forget that MMR difference is no joke. Just look at the competitive 6-man's ranking system, where we see 5 different ranks that all resemble Supersonic Legend. What players also don't realize is that being SSL in different game modes are perceived very differently. Let's take a look at 2s. If you're a Supersonic Legend in 2v2, chances are you'll run into very sweaty lobbies with a lot of pro and near pro players. But if you were to queue in that same elo in 3v3, most of the time you'll find plenty of players around that SSL entry level we were talking about before. This is because 2s typically requires more mechanics and relying on your individual ability more since you have one less teammate. It's just a much better indicator of your overall skill when more of the game is based on you. Rank 3s is often overshadowed by 6-mans because of this and just looked at less overall. For 1v1, we can look at Squishy, First Killer, and Fairy Peak because they all have something very similar in common. They all started their careers heavily involved in 1v1s. Along with many other pros, this caused ones to get a reputation for being a great outlet to start out a pro career. Because of the inherent solo ability required in both 1v1 and 2v2, they have turned into a big way of getting discovered and beginning pro careers just after a player is able to transfer that ability into 3v3. We rarely see pros spark up out of nowhere from them grinding ranked 3s, especially nowadays, even if they're able to reach the top 100 leaderboards. Then of course the extra modes are kind of just in a league of their own, but better players will look much higher in ranked 2s and 3s, and instead using 6-man's rank to judge a player's skill in the 3v3 game mode. So keep in mind there may be one game mode in particular that is more worth grinding for what you want in the game. Now here's a substantial fact about the first player to ever reach Supersonic Legend. The SSL rank was created after season 14, with the highest rank at the time being Grand Champion. But the gap in this rank became so prevalent that Rocket League needed to create more ranks to combat it. Instead of looking at the 300 MMR gap of SSL today, the skill range of Grand Champ back then was more like a 700 MMR difference, meaning it was more like comparing a Grand Champion with a low Platinum player, all for the same rank. Adding Supersonic Legend was an obvious choice here, but what many people didn't know is that the first player to ever reach this new SSL rank was a 13-year-old. Well, if you want to get technical with it, the rank was actually first achieved in Rumble, but for the regular competitive Rocket League game mode, this was the case. This player would turn out to, of course, not just be any young prodigy, but a player you may be familiar with nowadays, and that 13-year-old was Daniel, the rookie who would go on to be a pro and star player in the NA RLCS for Space Station Gaming at just 15 years old. This wouldn't be the only time we saw Daniel grind up to a rank proving his talent, and we definitely all know he hasn't lost his 1v1 ability to this day. Now, the highest ranks have changed a lot over time, but one rank that many people didn't know existed was a Blue Champion rank. On February 11, 2016, the beginning of Season 2 was released with a new ranking system that was as follows. It may seem like some ranks are missing from the list, but that's because almost 2 weeks later, on February 24th, a patch was released that rearranged the blue tier of ranks, also adding Shooting Star to the mix, as well as adding 3 new purple ranks and what we now know as Grand Champion to be the highest rank in the game. This was also the first season you would be able to get a yellow Grand Champion title. This needed to be done because this blue champion rank was way too easy for high level players to reach, with most pros actually just getting it straight from placements, which really doesn't happen nowadays. And of course, with no season reward level back then, it meant their season of grinding would be over just as it was starting as far as reaching the best rank goes. The developers realized they needed to add more ranks, and they did so, as well as adding 5 divisions per rank. Many of the Rocket League veterans know about the old ranking systems, but this one would have been an easy miss if you were to just take a short break at the beginning of the season. But for that short period in time, this blue champion rank was the highest rank in Rocket League. And for a bonus fact, especially for the Platinums out there, the highest rank in Season 1, reserved for the top 100 players in Rocket League, was indeed Platinum. Do with that info as you want, and if you're interested in the esports side of the game, be sure to check out this video about 10 of the most iconic moments in Rocket League history. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.